5 centuries before the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria ghosted across the Atlantic, a very different kind of ship cut through the frigid gray waters of the North American coast. It was a vessel of oak and iron, powered by a single square sail and the rhythmic pull of oars manned by warriors from the frozen north. These men were not looking for a new route to the Indies, nor were they backed by the crowns of Europe. They were Norsemen, driven by a hunger for land, timber, and the sheer audacity of the horizon. For decades, the stories of their journey were dismissed as mere mythology, ghost stories told in the long winters of Iceland. But today we know the truth. The Vikings did not just imagine a world to the west. They walked upon its shores, built homes in its soil, and engaged in a brief, bloody, and mysterious encounter with its original inhabitants. This is the story of first contact, the moment the Viking Age collided with the New World. To understand how the Norse reached America, we must first understand the world they left behind. By the late 10th century, the Viking expansion was hitting its limit. They had already claimed the islands of the North Atlantic, Shetland, Orkney, the Faroes, and Iceland. Around the year 985, a man named Eirik the Red, a hot-headed explorer exiled from Iceland for manslaughter, sailed further west and discovered a massive, icy landmass he deceptively named Greenland to lure settlers. Greenland was a hard place, but it served as the perfect springboard. From the western settlements of Greenland, the coast of North America is, in a geographical sense, just a short hop across the Davis Strait. According to the sagas of the Icelanders, the first European to actually lay eyes on North America wasn't Leif Erikson, but a merchant named Bjarni Herjolfsson. Bjarni had been blown off course during a storm while trying to reach Greenland. He reported seeing a land that was flat and covered in woods, quite unlike the glaciers of Greenland. He didn't land, but his stories sparked the imagination of a young Leif Erikson, the son of Eirik the Red. Leif bought Bjarni's ship, gathered a crew of 35 men, and retraced the merchant's route in reverse. Leif's voyage was a masterpiece of navigation. Without a magnetic compass, relying instead on the position of the sun, the stars, and the flight patterns of birds, he pushed westward. He first encountered a land of flat rocks and glaciers, which he called Helluland, or Land of Stone Slabs, likely modern-day Baffin Island. Moving south, he found a forested land with white sandy beaches, which he named Markland or Forest Land, known today as Labrador. Finally, they reached a place so temperate and rich in resources that they decided to overwinter there. They found salmon larger than any they had seen in Greenland, and most famously, wild grapes. Leif dubbed this new territory Vinland. For nearly 1,000 years, historians debated where Vinland actually was. Was it a poetic myth? Or was it a real place? In 1960, a Norwegian explorer named Helge Ingstad and his wife, archaeologist Anne Stein Ingstad, followed the clues in the sagas to the northern tip of Newfoundland. There, near a small fishing village called Elance Ox Meadows, they found something that changed history. The remains of 8 sod-walled buildings, built in the unmistakable style of the Norse. Even more definitive was the discovery of a bronze ring-headed pin, a soapstone spindle whorl, and evidence of iron smelting. This wasn't just a campsite. It was a base of operations. The Vikings had truly arrived. But the Viking presence in North America was not a peaceful expansion. The sagas tell us that the Norse were not alone. They encountered people they called Skraelings, a term likely referring to the ancestors of the Beothuk or the Dorset Paleo-Inuit. The first contact was tentative. In one account, the Norse traded milk and cloth for furs. But the peace was fragile. The Norse were a martial culture, and their arrival was an intrusion. One story tells of a Norse bull breaking loose from the camp and charging toward the indigenous people, terrifying them with its unfamiliar roar. In another, more violent account, the Norse came across 9 men sleeping under canoes and, in a moment of senseless brutality, killed 8 of them. The retaliation was swift. The Skraelings returned with a massive fleet of skin-covered boats, unleashing a hail of arrows. During one of these battles, the sagas describe Freydis Eriksdottir, Leif's sister, who was heavily pregnant at the time. When the Norse men began to retreat in fear, she reportedly grabbed a sword, bared her breast, and struck the blade against her chest while screaming a war cry. The sight so unnerved the attackers that they retreated. But the message was clear. The Norse were outnumbered, and this land would not be taken easily. Life at Meadows was a struggle for survival at the edge of the known world. The settlement served as a ship repair station and a gateway to the riches of the south. Evidence suggests the Norse explored much further than Newfoundland, likely traveling into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and New Brunswick. They gathered timber, which was a priceless commodity in treeless Greenland, and harvested butternuts and grapes. Yet despite the richness of the land, the colony didn't last. By most archaeological estimates, the Norse presence at Meadows lasted perhaps only 10 to 20 years. Why did they leave? The reasons are a mix of geography and logistics. Greenland, their lifeline to Europe, was itself a struggling colony. The distance back to the Norse heartlands was immense, and the North Atlantic was becoming colder as the medieval warm period began to wane. Furthermore, the hostility of the local populations meant that the Norse had to remain in a constant state of military readiness. Unlike the later European conquests, the Vikings did not have a significant technological advantage in weaponry. An arrow or a spear from a Beothuk warrior was just as lethal as a Norse axe. Without the numbers to sustain a colony or the political backing of a wealthy empire, the Vikings did something they rarely did. They retreated. The evacuation was likely orderly. They packed their tools, stripped the iron nails from their buildings, and burned what they couldn't carry. They sailed back to Greenland, carrying with them stories of a land of plenty that lay just over the horizon. For the next few hundred years, sporadic voyages likely continued to Markland for timber, but the dream of Vinland as a permanent home faded into the mists of history. For the people already living in North America, the departure of the Norse must have been as mysterious as their arrival. The tall, fair-skinned strangers in their dragon-headed ships vanished back into the sea, leaving behind only the faint scars of their sod houses and perhaps a few iron tools that would be traded among the tribes for generations. The significance of this first contact cannot be overstated. It represents the first time the circle of human migration around the globe was closed. Since the first humans left Africa tens of thousands of years earlier, one group had turned east through Asia and across the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas, while another had turned west into Europe. In the forests of Newfoundland, those two long-lost branches of the human family finally met face to face. It was a moment of profound historical weight, even if its participants didn't realize it at the time. Today, Meadows is a quiet, windswept UNESCO World Heritage Site. The sod houses have been reconstructed, and the wind still howls off the Atlantic just as it did a millennium ago. We look at these ruins and see more than just old walls. We see the limit of the Viking world. We see a testament to the incredible seafaring skill of a people who navigated by the stars and the color of the water. The story of the Vikings in America reminds us that history is often much older and more complex than the version we find in textbooks. It tells us that the New World was never truly new. It was a land already inhabited by ancient cultures, and its discovery was not a single event but a series of waves. The Norse were the first wave to break upon these shores from the east, and though they receded, they left a mark on our collective memory that refuses to be erased. As we continue to find new evidence of their travels, from potential sites in southern Newfoundland to Norse artifacts found deep in the Canadian Arctic, we are forced to admit that the sagas were right all along. The Vikings were here. They saw, they struggled, and for a brief moment in time, they linked two worlds together. And as the sun sets over the rugged coast of Vinland, we can almost see the shadow of a longship on the horizon. a ghost of an age when the world was still vast, mysterious, and waiting to be found.